This is part two of the lottery situation. If that lady didn't have a will set up where when she passed away, everybody that she rented to got a free house, I believe all that would have went to the state, you know, and possibly her money too, because she was the only living person left in her family. She was an older woman in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and she owned all these houses by the Palomino Club off of Ross Boulevard. So that was just a good story, and the people had no clue that she was going to do that until they just got a letter from the attorney, and I would say they got a phone call from the attorney too. So when my aunt came home, I think she said she came home, she asked her husband, did he pay the rent? He said, we ain't got to pay rent no more. And then I guess he showed her the letter and stuff like that. And it said, that the lady left everybody a house. So just in that family alone, which was, my aunt and uncle, his mother lived next door, and then his daughter lived across the street. That was 3 houses they got in that family alone. So you just never know what somebody would do. That's why it's always good to just treat people the way you want to be treated. And, you just never know what might come in the future. So if you treat people the way you want to be treated and be good to people, it can be a blessing, later. And it will be a blessing later. It's just a known fact. But, just stories like that, you just never know what could actually happen when you're just, being basically just a good person, you know what I mean? And treating people good and doing right by everybody and stuff like that. You just never know what might come your way. And not to be expecting anything, but it's just if you do good things will come back to you. It might take a minute, because there really ain't a time limit on it, but things will come back to you in a good, positive way. But that being said about the lottery, you know, where you got the attorneys on YouTube telling people what they first thing they need to do if they win the lottery. At this point, they're talking about the 1.1 billion that it is. I think the next one is going to be 1.3 if nobody wins. So it's you just don't want a lot of people, a lot of hands in the cookie jar, because if you do, uh, you're taking a big risk is if somebody help you spend all your money versus if you was in control of it. Say somebody did swipe some money from you and you're the only one in control of it, they're not going to get your whole amount. They're not going to make you broke, and then whatever gets swiped out of your bank that you didn't spend, the bank's going to cover it, and they're going to replace it. But if you sign a bunch of papers at an attorney's office, you give them access to paying bills for you, and they're going to tell you it's worry free. You can just don't worry about anything. We'll pay everything that needs to be paid and stuff like that. you better not do nothing like that, because you'll find yourself back where you started from. Whether it's a 9 to 5, or wherever you was at the point of buying your winning lottery ticket. So but it's up to each individual if they want to get an attorney and then let an attorney put a team together, financial advisors and all this, because you got to pay for all that. You know what I mean? And they're talking about, we're going to fix it where, you're set good in the future and stuff like that. And most people, if they win the lottery for millions of dollars, that's good enough for them. They don't need nobody to help them do anything. You know what I mean? Because like I said, if you win that much money and something goes wrong, you know, throughout the time, you can always hire an attorney when that occurs. Because that's what you're going to do in a regular day-to-day life. You're not just going to have an attorney just hanging around. You're going to only get an attorney when you really need one. So you don't need an attorney right away. I don't think you do. Everybody's got different opinions. But here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we say sign your ticket, go claim your prize, and be the only one in charge of your money. And then, you can keep up with everything like that. But if you sign papers and giving people access to your funds and letting them pay your bills for you and stuff like that, uh, they're going to spend a lot of your money. And a lot of times, people like that will just show you on paper or on computer, and it looks good and it looks like nobody spent nothing but you. But at the end of the rainbow, it'll be a different story, you know. Because, anybody can make it look like you're doing good. And that's just like a lot of them scams with the 401 retirement plans and stuff like that. You got to watch out for them too, because they'll show you on computer and stuff where your money's making money and stuff like that. And it'd be a whole different story. They'll be steadily spending your money and just showing you either paperwork or something on a computer where it looks like you're accumulating a lot of money, and so you're just spending regular money on a month-to-month basis, and later on you find out you ain't got nothing. I've seen that happen. You can look it up too. That's been a reality many times over the years, and I've seen that mostly on American Greed. It's a show that used to come on, and it shows people all different types of scams where people's rip people off and stuff like that. So that's why I say if you win a bunch of money in the lottery, I would say just trust yourself and your bank, and that's it. you know and then that way you can kind of keep up with what you're doing. But if you got 5 to 10 people working for you, and people's got access to your money. Even if it's another person got access to your money and they tell you they're just going to pay everybody and stuff so you ain't got to worry about it, that's a red flag right there, because that means they won the lottery and you won the lottery. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't chance that myself, but that's just us here at Detroit's Darkest Times. We would not chance something like that. you know. Cause people just can't be trusted. Even the people who can be trusted, the ones who can be trusted and they get access to a bunch of money, eventually they start seeing where they could do a few things to make their life a little better on you. So, and it's happened many, many times. You could look it up on any scenario you want to think of. Just look it up and just see, how people's got ripped off and how they trusted their attorney or somebody like that and gave them access to pay bills for them or a financial advisor and stuff like that. And this is all just ways to swindle you out of your money. So I would say just handle your own finances and just, then if you go broke, you ain't got nobody to blame. You ain't got to try to figure out who ripped you off or anything like that because you're the only ones had access to the money. And I would say that would be the best thing if you won the lottery at 1.1 billion, you know, even though you're not going to get that much, it's going to go down to 5 right away, and then it'll go down to about 300 million. And and then that's what you have to work with. But 300 million will last you and your children a lifetime. You know what I mean? And then people you want to help out, whether whether somebody just needs a car and you want to buy them a car or something, whatever. But you can't save the world neither. When you win a bunch of money and stuff, it's gonna when it sets in with you, it's gonna feel good and knowing that you can just do anything you want to do. But there's only just so many people you can actually help. Can't be like MC Hammer. MC Hammer's a cool dude. I liked him. I still like him to this day. But he just put so many people to work trying to help people. And, he just, I think if he would have just went a different route, he probably would have been okay. But, he just gave so many people jobs and, just trying to help out everybody. And he was just helped out, you know, he helped out a lot of people, but, it's just, there's just some things you can do and some things you can't do. No matter what you get. Because I think MC Hammer was making at one point, I think 100 million a year or something like that. But his overall expenses was crazy, at that time. you know. But shout out to MC Hammer, he's the man. But I'm just using that for an example. You just can't. You can only help so many people. Whether you're doing really well and you want to help a whole lot of people, there's just certain things you can do. Like myself, over the years, I've helped many people, many different places, and many times. And at these times I'm talking about, I was just a working man. I wasn't wealthy by no means, but I've helped a lot of people. And and then it just comes back to me as a blessing because all the good things I've done is, just me being here today to talk about it is a blessing in itself. You know what I mean? So you just got to keep that in mind when you come into some money, or if you're just a working person and you just like to help people, because there's people out there like that. They're just working people, but they'll help you. If they hear that you're having a hard time, or hear that you need a car, or you know, they'll try to do something about it. They won't just say, "Oh, I hate to hear that." They will actually do something about it. And if they can't actually help you get a car, say you need a car or something like that, they'll set up a GoFundMe or something, and they'll get you a car. You know, and that's just real folks with real hearts and real good people. That does things like that. That's why it's important to treat people the way you want to be treated. Be nice to folks, especially your elders. I know there's a lot of young folks out uh, these days, and I've talked to a few of them. I'd ask them, do they respect their elders? And then I had one guy tell me, he was like, well, if they respect me, I respect them, and it wasn't automatic. Yes, I'm gonna respect my elders. Just put it that way. So he was just like, he's got to get some to show respect. That's basically what he was saying, and that's just his thought. Maybe his thought has changed by now, but you know, that's just what he told me, and I was like, well, so it's just a different time now because back in the days, everybody respected their elders, and this day and time, it's a different ball game. You could just every chance you get to speak to a young person, you know, and just see what their response is. You know what I mean? Ask them a question, whatever, and just see what their response is. You know, but that's just something else that things like that happen. But that being said, uh, you just you know do what you think's best if you win that kind of money, or if you come into a lot of money. You know, no matter where it's coming from, just do what you think's best. Don't have a bunch of people in your ear telling you you need to do this, you need to do that, whatever. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that won the money, and you need to be the one to make the decisions. Now, you might be a person that just asks for people's opinions on what to do, and that's cool too, But the main thing is, you know, just don't come into a lot of money and then give other people access to your money where they can possibly spend more than you do or as much as you do. Because then the money's going to go 2 times faster. You see what I'm talking about? So it's basically, you have to, you know, just do what you think's best. But I know a lot of people's not going to win a ton of money like that and just decide they're going to hang on to the ticket because they spent all this time trying to win the lottery. And I just don't feel like people, I mean, they might wait a week maybe. I'd say 2 weeks at max, but I don't even think it'd go that far, to be honest with you. Because the most thing you want to do is go ahead and claim your prize and get it in the bank where you got access to it. Because you prolong it and prolong it, anything may happen. And so it's best just to, I would say, sign your ticket, date it, and claim your prize. You know, because it's just, I would say, the best thing to do, because if you get a whole bunch of people involved in your winnings and stuff like that, you don't know how long it'll take before you run out of money. because you just got too many hands in the cookie jar. You know what I mean? Because that's basically just like getting 10 random people and see if they'd be all right with you putting their name on your bank account, you know. And that's what it'd be. It'd be 11 people counting yourself have access to your bank account. So, you know. But there's going to be people out there that if you come into a bunch of money and they get wind of it or they know about it, they're coming at you because they're going to try everything they can to try to get involved with you so, you know, they can get some of that money, whether it be a paycheck or, you know, access so they can pay your bills for you and then they have access to your money. So here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we say that's a no-no. Don't do that. Handle your own funds, claim your own winnings, and just, you know, enjoy life. Because, you know, a lot of people try to, you know, win the lottery and so they can have a better life and retire and all that. Traveling, you know, stuff like that. So, that being said, you just got to do what's wise for you at the time. And what the best decision you think is, do that, you know. But we just, you know, really had to touch on this lottery winning situation, you know, and hopefully you're blessed one day to win the lottery, you know. But we just had Detroit's Darkest Times had to touch on this lottery situation because there's other people on it and they're saying things that we disagree with. So that's the purpose of this audio, you know. So if you would like to support this channel, subscribe to Detroit's Darkest Times, hit the like and the notification bell. And if you really want to support the channel, the Cash App is $FC313 and the PayPal is DDT313. If you want to support the channel with funds, feel free. We do a lot of different things helping folks. So, you know, the money will go to good use. So we appreciate you. Remember, anytime you win a lump sum of money, you know, make sure that you're the only one in charge of this funds. Because you just don't want a lot of hands in the cookie jar. That being said, we appreciate everyone that's listening. Hope you enjoy your day. Treat everybody well. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Stay part of this channel and grow with us. That being said, we're out. Peace.